I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. All right, what's up, world? Welcome again to another edition of I Mix What I Like, imixwhatilike.org, at I Mix What I Like for all of your relevant social media. Again, I'm Jared Ball, happy to host another important conversation again with Dhoruba Bin Wahad, formerly of the Black Panther Party, the Black Liberation Army, 19-plus year political prisoner, and one of our leading philosophers, political organizers, and analysts. Dhoruba, welcome again back to the program.
Thank you.
So we wanted to talk a little bit about a Facebook post you put out the other day, calling again some important attention to the history and case of Kamau Sadiki. I want you, if you would, to quickly, let's start with this. If you could quickly summarize the history of the BLA, the Black Liberation Army, and then fold Sadiki's story into that, and then catch us up to where he is now, and then we'll go from there and extend that into the broader context in which all this is happening. But Kamau Sadiki, formerly of the Black Liberation Army, currently a political prisoner, break down his story and why you thought it was important to bring it back to our attention. In a piece from freekamau.com written by Safiya Bukhari, the late Safiya Bukhari, and Claude Marks of Freedom Archives, it starts off by saying that on November 10th in 2003, so you're talking about 71 and the formation of the advance of the Black Liberation Army in the context of COINTELPRO. But in November of 2003, Judge Stephanie Manis sentenced Kamau Sadiki to life imprisonment for murder for armed robbery after a Fulton County Superior Court jury found him guilty for the murder of Atlanta police officer James Green back in November of 1971. Could you fill in those gaps there? How did we go from 2071 to 2000? Okay.
I know we're limited in time, and it's very difficult to unravel this in 15 minutes or half an hour to an audience that is completely unfamiliar with what happened. And having said that, the reason why the late Safiya Bukhari talked about that, because that was the period of time that they had arrested Kamau and extradited him back to the state of Georgia and put him on trial for the killing of this police officer. You know, the police. There are several unsolved police shootings that are attributed to the Black Liberation Army. You know. There are several unresolved shootings, and the police could never rest with that. So when in the case of Kamau, there was no conviction ever made for this shooting of this Officer Green, just as there was no conviction ever made of the shooting of two policemen claimed by the Black Liberation Army on the Lower East Side in New York in 1973, I believe, or 72. I think it's 73. And that was Foster and Laurie, police officers Foster and Laurie. There's never been a conviction for that. And I tell people in a joking fashion, if I were in prison, I would have got indicted for it, whether I was there or not. You know, and so we need to understand that law enforcement is reaching back to the cases that they feel were not adjudicated or closed properly, in which there hasn't been a conviction. When we look at a case that happened in 1972 or 71, and an individual who was brought before the judiciary and the courts by law enforcement to pay for that unsolved crime, with absolutely no evidence. There was no physical evidence against Kamau Sadiki in convicting him. There was no evidence that he was at the scene. There was no physical DNA evidence on any of the weapons. He was not captured at the scene. And all of these years that he was free, law enforcement knew him. And it wasn't until he was arrested for a domestic issue that they managed to turn his then domestic partner against him and give false evidence that he had confessed to this, he had bragged about it, and all of this stuff. So,
and then the state tried to use his prior relationship with Assata to say that if he didn't help them capture her, that he would, quote, die in prison.
Yes, and of course, Kamau refused, and he's in prison and in ill health, and they fully intend to carry out that threat to kill him in prison.
Well, Dhoruba Bin Wahad, thank you as always for joining us. We will, of course, continue this as soon as possible. And to you and to all of our listeners, as Fred Hampton used to say, as we always say, peace if you're willing to fight for it. Dhoruba, definitely peace unto you and your family. And thank you to you and to everyone else for watching.
Thank you for having me on the program, Darren.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like.